Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to the Code Chronicles. It's your lovely host, Pags. We're back at it. We're back at it. I've been doing so much work the last couple of days, recording a ton of content beyond the Code Chronicles. I built, let me take a sip of coffee first. I built some new material that's coming out. As well, it's getting to, I'm adding to the software engineering program as well. So we have a YouTube content thing coming out, some vlogs coming out, a free demo of my course, and I really curated it, and you'll see how it's cut. There's some music, and it's really honing in. This one's honing in on React authentication concepts. Depending on when I release this specific episode of Code Chronicles, it may be out already. If not, it's on the way out soon. I'll put them out close to each other. Because right now that's coming out 6 days from today. It's already uploaded, already got the thumbnail. I created a really, really unique thumbnail too. But yeah, so the tech vlog, there was a lot of fun stuff in that I lived and lived out. So just a few things coming out, folks. It's a few things coming out. As well, I chatted with my buddy Chester. He's a very, very talented backend engineer. And he told me how I can approach this project. There's going to be a few things that I need to consider. So here's like one of them, for example, that he was teaching me about was tasks belong to projects. Projects belong to users. Users can belong to teams, right? So there's going to be like 3 or 4 databases I need to manage. And it's just stuff like that I'm very competent and feel very dominant on the front end of things. But the back end is something where I'm okay at. I could definitely figure out. But I do need to work at it. So having him as an amazing resource, he's a very, very talented engineer and an enterprise backend engineer. That's just perfect, So a little bit of that. Then 2 or 3 nights ago, I worked really hard on the task tracker. So we're going to see it look a little bit different from what it looked like a few days ago. That's because I have been working tremendously hard on this as well. Added a few things. Here's a new component. It's this draggable thing that I'm going to build out to be a little helper that we can click and it'll pop open like this with some things you can click. Yeah. So just working at it, just chipping away. We had some warnings and I just configured all that. The base modal was not liking that we were passing in a button as with HTML element or some JSX elements. Not sure why. So we're passing in basically an ID of which button I'm choosing to define our button, to define our JSX inside the modal. So kind of some boring stuff, kind of some exciting stuff. I messed around with some TRPC and Prisma as well the other day. Just filling it out and made some cool divs. So we see some loaders here. And the divs kind of load in here a little bit more fun. We can raise the dampening a little. Excuse me, maybe the stiffness is what I want. So yeah, just a ton of stuff, guys. Just a ton of stuff. Just coming in, So we want to... I don't know. I'm just playing around with Framer Motion right now, folks. But let's dive in. So I think today I don't want to get into too much more front end stuff. At least just like DOM manipulation. There's still ideas I want to have. I want to have the collapsible things and be able to collapse the columns if you want. Reason being because when we go on mobile, we need to have the columns probably stack up on each other. I don't know. I'll need to think about mobile designs. Because obviously we're getting some overlap issues and stuff. So my natural thought was to have the columns go column, where it's 1, 2, 3 on top of each other, and then have them be collapsible with your thumb, where you can click up here or something and it would collapse the whole column. or it would collapse all the task within the column or something. So we'll figure that out though, I think down the road. I think more importantly, we just want to get our CRUD operations kind of finalized and figured out, because we are desperately in need of this task button working. I think that's the larger of the priorities. So let me kind of get a refresher on that. Add task. Okay, that's not where that exists. We need it to exist up here. Post modal content. Update task modal content. Oh, it would be post modal content. Gosh, I read right over it. So let me drink a little coffee then, folks. Yeah, let's send this to the backend of what we're posting. So handle post task. What I could do, well, we are querying for more task. So we're going to pass in the task name here and send that off to the backend. And set task name, I did build an input component. And we never finished that. Okay, so let me value task name. We'll say on change e equals set task name to e.target.value, which is just going to be everything that we put. Wait, is this our update task? Okay, no, not here, not update task. Forgive me, folks. Was in the wrong spot. We needed the input update task and task ID. Okay, we do want that there, but we want to post task. So our task should be, if we've done this correctly, anything we type, we see it here. It's just all in white. So let me just change class name, text, black. Sweet. Okay. So we're grabbing this piece of state and we're updating it. Set task name, e.target.value. And we're passing that state into our handle post task function. And then we're going to add everything else, obviously like the ID, the priority, all that stuff. I just want to make sure that task name is first of all working. If we can get that working, then in theory, we should be able to get the other things working. So I'm going to do one thing at a time, handle post task. But this is where I get a little bit questionable. We're going to a store, which is we're going to a store, which is taking this, right? Oh, and we didn't even link up the front to back end of these tasks. So this is also why, at least the payload from the front end is not being accepted to the back end quite yet. And this is kind of why I was messing with, what's it called? TRPC, because TRPC would let us know pretty much instantly, hey, something's going on here. You're not, you're actually, how do we pass in? Yeah, that's fine. But TRPC would let us know immediately of, hey, these tasks or these endpoints aren't linked up properly. Their types aren't right. So I will be looking more into TRPC for sure and playing around with it. I did play around with it a bunch the other day. I think yesterday. And I was starting to get just the introductory stuff. Finally, it took a few days of wrestling just to even get to that point of like, okay, what is Zod? How does this validation stuff work? But ultimately, I did start to kind of figure it out. Still a ton more for me to figure out, but it was working. It was working, and I think that's the cool part. So task ID, we're actually not going to pass it in from the task store. I remember that was going to be our decision. The controller will handle that on the back end. Okay, so it looks like we're linked up where we have task name, and from the task store, I'm passing in task name into the payload, wherever our post task payload is, right here. So here's our object that we're sending to this endpoint. And I'll swap this out in a sec. I'll put that in the .env file when we get a chance. Let's see if this works. Let's see. Let me pull up our application. We're running. Oh, I mean, not our application, our console. Okay, we got a few errors, don't like it. Okay, sweet. Nasty. I had an eye boogie. All right, folks. So let's do this. Let's see. So if I add task, we're going to say, and let's see the console over here. We're going to say new task from modal. Let's create the task. Did we console log it? Oh, we didn't even console log it. Okay. New task from modal. Oh, it worked. Folks, it worked. Sweet. That's awesome. That is awesome. So now if we look at our database, let's go ahead and pop open Mongo. Oh. And in our task, let's see, refresh. New task from modal. Folks, we desperately needed a task modal and we are starting to build it. That's awesome. So now the name of the game is we need to do it for everything else too. So we have our task name that seemed to work great. Now we need to do set task priority, which is going to be a little bit different. Not sure why we're getting an error here. So if task name exists, as string, how about that? That will work there. And we're going to also have task priority, but we're gonna do this a little bit different here. The task priority, we're going to give it a selector. So instead of it being this a input, it needs to be a a select. And then in your select, you have an option, value low. But we're going to make it custom. This is just kind of a quick and dirty. And high, all that stuff, right? Reason is because those are our enum types. Enum meaning like we only have 3 things you can choose from. You can't put in a custom priority. And we kind of want it that way for certain pieces of data where I don't have to keep track of priorities where we're like coloring the priority, for instance, on the front end, or we might filter them on the back end or something. But if a user put like, oh, it's kind of a priority, like that's not an option. You can't just put kind of a priority or something, right? We're going to hard code it to these 3 or default it to medium or something. Maybe it can be what we do. But for now, this is going to work great. I'll change set task priority to, I think it's val. I have not used these too much, to be honest. e.target.value. I think that's how it works. So if we take our task priority now, again, we're gonna have to make this custom anyway. So this is just kind of a quick and easy thing. Let's see, medium. Okay, so that does work. Great. So task priority. And we're passing that in. And this is just to check really quick in a fast way of these things are working, right? Like that's the ultimate goal, to make sure that the front end is linking up with the back end, sending everything off to the store proper. So post task name, string, we have task priority, also a string. And we need to pop that into our task priority here. And I think shorthand syntax, we don't actually have to put in task name to task name. We can just say like this if they're named the same. And we go to our task controller. From our rec.body, we're receiving task priority now. So we can just go ahead and pop that in here as well. And task ID do believe we can do that as well. So let's see if this thing works. Let's see. Let's refresh everything, make sure our server's up and running. Give it a sec. And what I should also do is add a function that checks if there's any task, and if not, fire off another query to call them until there's task, and maybe try it like 5 times or something like that. And then if it doesn't do it 5 times, throw an error. But we're going to figure that out in a sec, just one thing at a time. Let's see, test, let's say medium, and create task. And we see the medium priority right there, folks. Right there. So that is awesome. That is awesome. It's starting to work. We got ourselves a front-end modal, which was desperately, desperately needed for our task. And finally, I'm kind of at a crossroads right now. Either we can make our custom base input and then our custom base selector, or we could figure out this object that we need to figure out, which is going to be this guy of adding a timestamp and pushing it into here, right? And pushing it into our task status. That's kind of going to be a different thing. At least in my imagination. I think we're going to have to build the object here. So task status object. And this object is going to take a name. And maybe we'll say task status name, right? And timestamp. This can maybe just be date.now, where we're just consistently tracking it across time. What's the error? Oh, we're not receiving a task status name. And then I think here we can just pass this in like this. But I don't know if it's going to push to this every time. We'll find that out here shortly. This hopefully is working better than I think. Would be pretty awesome, because this is one in my brain that confuses me just a smidge. So really what we need from the front end is just the task status name. So here we go. I'll say task status. Oh, not the object. Forgive me. String. And really, oh, and task priority really shouldn't be a string either. It should actually be an enum. So low, medium, high. And I was going to say the same thing for the task status here. It shouldn't actually be a string. I guess that's the cheap and dirty way of doing it. But really, it should be to do. In progress and done is actually what it should be. And honestly, I should have a type for this if we didn't make one already. Oh, we did. Okay, so we need task type, task priority, and what do we say for task name, right? Task status, and I can say type task. Task column name, maybe. Say backlog. To do, I think that got it all right. In progress, boom, boom, boom. And then from here, we actually can delete our enum up top and just say, I think this is it. That's all we need for our task status. And we actually have a more defined thing where it's going to be one of these things, backlog to do, or in progress, or done. And then as well, our task priority can be type task priority. And I believe this will work. So then we can export all these and we can pull them in instead of hard coding them every time, because I don't want to do that in case here, for instance, if we ever want to add a new type, so I could say task priority, task column name, right? I don't want to hard code in, I don't want it to be string because that just seems cheap and dirty. But I also don't want it to be an enum because that just seems really like a pain in the butt to maintain. So if we ever need to change our types, we can always just change the type here, and it changes it for both ends of the file, both the front end and back end, which in my brain makes the most sense, like seems like the least amount of work, right? So we don't need to change or don't need to send, but if we say as task type, then we do need to send it that way, but it should just be as task type payload maybe. So maybe I won't send it as task type right now. We'll just go ahead and send it like this and just see if we can get the thing working, I think is biggest priority. And then let me change these things on the front end, or excuse me, in the file as well, the column. So we need task status name, nice. Let me pull in all of our types that we need. Task, what was it? Task priority and task column name. And that's what our types here need to be, tasks like that. And then also our const task status name and set task status name. And the type is going to be the task column name. Actually, I guess that would probably make more sense to call it the task column name that it belongs in, rather than rename it something else. And then I'll put that here. And we're getting a type error here saying task priority is a string, but shouldn't be a string. So we need to declare it, I believe. Boom. So that should solve that problem. And then set task column name. Oh, what is this? Oh, right here. Should never be a string. It's not a string. It's going to be a task priority is what the type is. Then our task column name is also going to be task column name for the data type. And we need to set the task column name, and this is going to be a new function. So every card, let's think about this. So I just want to build the basic function first of just swapping the task over, because I did mess with the draggable stuff as well. And that might be a larger lift. That's what inevitably got me to this thing, where I was figuring out the draggable content and built out a base draggable, which is a lot of work. And then I looked into Framer Motion, which has a draggable kind of thing. So I wanted to look into this div as well, because it seemed like a lot easier of a thing where you have kind of a container ref, and then your draggable can go everywhere in it inside the container. So here's your container ref, and then you have your item within the container. The drag constraints is according to the constraints ref. So in our project, we needed to, for instance, this guy, I can drag him way off screen and I could scroll to him. Oh, maybe not over there. But I was able to do it where I can drag him off here and keep expanding the screen, right? Which we don't want to do. So I might change this. Oh, not code with Mosh, great guy. I always say that. But we might want to implement the Framer Motion thing where we can do this. The only other catch is to do it with a grid or some sort of thing where it kind of drags and drops into place or whatnot. So we're going to have to figure that's going to be a bit of a larger lift, maybe not today. But I would like to get it done. I think that would be a really, really, really cool thing. Oh, and task priority, we don't want it as string, excuse me. Maybe I don't need the types down here. Nope, looks like I do. And we need task column name as task column name. Looks like that solved those issues there. Now the next thing we need to do is figure out how to adjust the task column name. So the current status, the current place of the card is what we need to pass in here. But we don't even have that, I don't believe. Or no, we do. We do filter it somehow. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the columns that they exist in. So let's think how we did that. I think it's filtered task. Wherever this is, filtered task, boom, boom, boom. So maybe it is just this that we just pass in there, right? The call/status equals task.task status. Return true, false there. So I think we just passed this in, task status, to our function, to our handle post for here, basically. Handle post. Okay, but how do we get into this column? Is there task in that column? Sorry, I lost us, folks. It's a little bit hard with it zoomed in. I know one of the guys asked for me to zoom in the content, but it can be. So here's what I'll do. I'll make this bigger and I'll actually zoom out of our application. How about that? I think that's a good trade-off so we can see the code better. But I do need more window space, and then we can see our application still on the right. That's a good trade-off, I think. Okay, so here we have task name, right? We're passing in task, I believe. So the post modal column. Do I have access to task? No, I don't think I do. So we need to. Or excuse me, this isn't the function I'm thinking of, actually. That's already for existing tasks. This is for creating new tasks. So we don't need to do that, actually. Forgive me, guys. We don't need to do that quite yet. But what I'm thinking is of using this. I think we'll need to do for determining which column it is in, and then passing that status upwards when we update task, I think. Potentially. We'll cross that bridge though in a bit, not right now. So we'll say in progress. Let's just get this all functionally working and then we'll pretty it up. I think that's the name of the game here. So set column name. Let's put that where we just edited all those selectors. And if we've done that correctly, we should be able to pass in column name as e.target.value as task column name. And let's just see what we're working with. So we add task, and if I say in progress, sweet. Okay, so we're sending that off to the backend, and let's see. Option, nope, meant option. Okay, so that's getting passed into our function, and maybe I don't even need to put it into here. Can I actually just steal all these things from here? Task name. Because we're putting it in here, right? And then that actually saves me one step of what's it called? Of abstraction, right? Because if we're setting it to the state here, we should actually not have to post it from here, right? This is just going to be a button that just triggers that function, but that function already has access to the state. So that actually takes us one level of abstraction upwards, which I like. It's less stuff. We just send it off to the task store. Better yet, we could stash that into here and not have that function altogether if we could figure out how to get this to query for task whenever we fire off a post function. Let's make sure this still kind of works though. At least sends these three things to the front end or to the store. Console log. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to say test. Oh, we got some errors. We got some errors, but that's all right. Let's get this thing querying. We'll say add task, test. We'll say medium and in progress. So we can't see it just because the texts are white, but they're all there. All the values are still there. And then we saw it pop up, which is good. So it is getting the test, the medium, and in progress. And I think our, unless this was it, but I don't think our function on the backend in the controller is working. Oh, here it is. Forgive me. Well, just like that, folks, I'll be damned. Well, golly, all of our hard work paid off. The only thing I didn't like, though, is I feel like it took a second to kind of add or something, or it didn't query. And one thing I kind of briefly looked at earlier was, why do we have 3 task buttons if we can control the task priority in the middle? Or in the modal, we can control the task priority. So it almost has no relevance if we click on any 3 of these buttons, which is why I kind of said, maybe we just have one button up here, one really large button down here or something, because they all do the same modal. Or the other approach is make the modal pre-populate with low here and medium here and high here, I guess is one idea. But let's double check and make sure this works and get the query thing working. Excuse me, guys. And we'll actually just say text black up here. Make sure everything's doing this. Boom, low to do. Hello, Pags. Okay, we'll put this in high and we'll say it's done. Let's see. So it's posting the task. I think it's working, but it's not querying again all the but that's cool. That is cool that we can actually create tasks now. So let me get rid of that console log. We're querying our endpoint. And I wonder why. So it's awaiting new task.save. Oh, you know what? I see why we're not querying. Get task here. So set task to fetch. Okay, that's just what I'm doing to show the loading. It really should be, unless that's why arrow functioned into it. Maybe is that handle post, but it should await, right? Or do you put the await on the get task? Let's see, folks. So we're going to scroll down. Hello, Pags. We'll say new task again, or AAA, just to easily see. Say medium, to do, in progress, done. So why isn't it querying is what I want to know, because then obviously it's working, hopefully, right? Let's see. Nice, AAA, it is working. But when we post the task, it's not doing this part again where it's re-querying for all the task. Handle post task, unless that's somehow associated to the column it's in. So maybe, let's see, AAA again, we'll put it in low and we'll put it in the to-do column. One error, okay, this can be good. Uncaught. Axios, bad response 500. Okay, let's see. Let's see what our backend is doing. Let's get it back up and running. Hold on, guys. And again, I think that requery for task function would be really, really beneficial for us, where if tasks haven't loaded, let's say in like 5 seconds, it shoots off another request to try to load more task. So, okay, so now it's not working all of a sudden. Not sure to why. Let's see, schema. Oh, you know what? I think our schema is going to be a problem here because we do have different schemas. On the front end, we kind of have this task status. Let's see, folks. As task type. And if we just rename this, would it throw an error? Let's see. Or do we need to say as task? Or it already infers the schema, right? Because we are doing the task, yeah. Or does it not, folks? I'm not sure, right? So we have task ID A. Let's see. I feel like these should be throwing errors, but it's not. So maybe what I could do is build the task payload here as an object and pass in all these things just like this. Say as task type and pass in the payload, boom, like this. Not sure what's going on with our controller. Boom. Okay, so let's see. So if I now add, again, I feel like it should be throwing errors. Okay, there it goes. Again, I just want to make sure that the types are all proper. And now it shouldn't be throwing errors. Okay, so I think we're just lagging a little. So I think that's a good start. And again, I can't put it in there for some reason. That seems a bit abstract, but okay. So from the front end, maybe we will pass in instead of task. Let's see. Let's go back to the controller. So we basically need to pass this as an object from the rec.body. Maybe not though, you know, maybe we can work around it this way. I just don't like them being different payloads. I really don't. So if we say as task type here, it's not going to work, right? Because it's a different shape, just slightly, because we're just sending the piece here when really it should be name, task status name, and then timestamp. Some sort of date.now, right? Isn't that our object? Is that not our object? I thought it was. Task status object. Task status. Okay, I see. Oh, it's in that. Okay. I don't know what you can send back here like this. I don't know if I could destructure the task status. From the payload. So I'm going to do task status real quick. And I really do like the backend posting the timestamp anyways, but let's just see. I'm gonna console log this task status. Let's see what pops up in our console, see if we broke something. I just didn't know you could pass full arrays through the request body. But I guess you learn something new every day, right? Okay, we are listening. Say listen, low, to do, and let's create the task. Okay, I think I did see it pop through. Timestamp. Oh, it did. Partially. One error, app listening connected, boom, boom, boom. Task validation, task priority, task path. Task priority is required. I thought we passed task priority. And did it ultimately post? Let's see. I think it did. Was this us? I forget. I forget if it did or didn't. New task. Okay, let's see from modal. That's awesome though. If we could start posting tasks this way, that makes it so much faster. Hello, Pags. Okay, so new task from modal. Let's delete that one. It's working. We'll go star. I feel like every developer does this where they're just throwing. I don't know. Let me know if you guys do this or not, right? Where you just like put AAA, exclamation point, things like that. So that didn't work. I don't think. Okay. So I don't like having different types like that. And one workaround is like, okay, well, let's just build a type called task type payload where we're just making sure it's the right payload. But I don't want to keep track of it like that. God forbid we need to change the structure of the task, because more than likely we will. Well. So let's see. Loading. Okay, we are getting some issues here. So task status name. Just feels reckless on the front end to not. Or task column name. Would that satisfy us? Task. I guess that satisfies us, but it just feels dirty and wrong. I don't like it. I really don't like it, to be honest, but it gets us our thing that we need to do right now. So then we just build the object here. Instead of taking task status, we take task status name, right? That's what we're sending from the task store. So hold on, let me put this side by side to kind of make sense a little bit more, because I feel like I'm kind of flying around in the project. So this is the payload that we are sending from the front end. It's going to be those three things: the task name, the task priority, task status. And we're sending that to our backend. And our backend is receiving these things. When we destructure it and say colons destructured task name, task priority, task status name equals rec.body, we're grabbing all those things from the request body. Another way of doing this is we could literally say colons task name equals rec.body.task name. So same thing, just destructured syntax, rec.body. And we're passing it in, and we're building this task type object. Well, not here, we won't. Actually, we will if we need to. So task status will just be this right here. And I think that should fix our errors. So we're building the task ID, which is just going to be the document length for now, or maybe we could do date.now as well, or some sort of thing. The timestamp I want as the task status object or task status history object. Again, we might rename this in the entire project to something else, task status name to task status history name or something. Well, task status history or column name, I don't know. But basically, we want this thing, I'm loosely held on the name, so don't focus too much on the key, but the value is the most important part here, which is we have the name of the column it's in, the to-do, the in progress or done, and then we're keeping track of the time of it. And the reason why we wanted to keep track of the time of it was for some timeline thing to see when tasks were complete. If we said, how many tasks did you do last week or next week or last month or in a lifetime of this person's been around or something, that's going to be why we elected for a timestamp here. So I'm taking all these things, the task status name, task status priority, task name, task status name, task priority. We're curating the task object, the task ID. We're building the task status object, and we're passing all those things as a payload and sending it to our task by building a new task. So this step was only to just check the type. Really, it should be like this, but for some reason we weren't getting TypeScript working for us here. When we said as this, even though it should throw mad errors right now. Okay, it does. So, okay, if TypeScript's working now, then we'll just keep it this way because it's less redundancy, less layers of abstraction. And then ultimately, we take all of that stuff we're building and we send it to our database, newtask.save. So that's what we're trying. And then if it fails, obviously an error happened, boom, boom, boom. So that's a little bit of this new task payload, I guess, as task type. Okay, so I like it. Not committed to this, open to change it, but I do roughly like the idea as a whole that we can do this. And I think that does fix our server error that we were having earlier because we were sending that object. So maybe when we get back to posting task, this will work again. Working. Let's see, and we'll say high priority and we'll put in the to do. Okay, we're still having an issue here. So the schema, I think, is the problem. It must be from this, I imagine. Potentially. Properties object, so schema.string, schema.validate, task status.name. Where is this? Validation error path name is required. But we are putting a name. Task status. It must be from right here. So let's see if it's still posted at least. Sometimes it'll still do that. Nope. Okay. So what did we break then? Because it was working for a bit there, and then it wasn't. And weirdly enough, it was right around the time when we changed from this just being a handle post function to this, but I wouldn't understand why that would break it on the front end. Let me close this down. I do feel like it's a back end thing or a payload being sent off thing. So let's look at our model, task model, which ultimately should take the same shape as this. Let's just double check. And again, if we rename something, I want to see errors here, which we don't, so it makes me wonder about TypeScript. But I think my computer's just lagging because I'm doing like 4 things again, where I'm recording, recording audio, face recording, and screen recording. So I think it's taking a lot of time to. Okay, sweet. So that does throw an error. Perfect. Just want to make sure TypeScript's still working, right? Obviously it should be, but for whatever reason, if my computer's being a pain, it's not going to. So let me pop back into that file, give it a moment to refresh. And if we're getting an actual error here, that would make sense to why type new number required true. So why are we, look at our type again. Oh, maybe this is why, because we were changing some of this stuff. So let's run through it. So we have task number, we want the number, or task ID, excuse me. Task name, we want string, and it's all required. Task priority, we want string. Task priority, low, medium, high. So maybe that's why we're getting a little bit of a different payload. I wonder if you could put in enums here. Or can you just pass in types here? Is this a thing? Low. Because again, I don't want to be tracking this all the way and updating these types all the way over here. It just seems really, really, really like a pain. We have task status, which I'm going to pop in the same organization that we have here. And we have task category, which is a string. Task assignee, which is going to be an array of strings. Okay. And I'm actually going to change that. I talked with Chester yesterday. He recommended doing a one-to-many relationship, not a many-to-many relationship, meaning that one task, let's say if I sign up for this, it can only belong to me or one other person or another person, rather than a task being able to assign to multiple people. So we're going to consider that. Again, he's a really talented backend engineer. So obviously that's important. So let's see. Schema, task schema. I don't know. I'm shooting from the hip here, folks. I don't know if this needs to be a different thing, like we can't do as task type here. But to me, it looks like it's a similar type where these things aren't required. Task priority is required. Task name is required. Task ID is required. And yeah, to me, it looks like we're built out here, folks. So I'm not sure where the issue is. Unless it is this, that we're sending the payload to the backend, but I feel like that shouldn't be messing with the backend. It would make sense if it's messing with this here. So let me undo this type here, and we'll do the object and then pass it in, because maybe that's why we're getting a weird thing. It is sending the task type to Mongo, but if it doesn't want it like that, I don't know, that doesn't make sense that it would be different, but maybe just syntactically it's just a tad different. Let's see. Validation error, we're getting the same issue. Task.controller, okay, so we're honing it in. Task priority is required. We are passing in task priority. Did I spell it incorrectly? Task priority. And what if we just made it not required? Let's see. Let's see, folks. Let's see. Test will say medium and to do. Task validation failed. Okay, so name is required. It's coming from our task status object. Interesting. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to revert this to when we were passing in an object and type checking for it. I think that was like building out the payload like this. And then we just pass the payload in. So we now know it's the task type. We're verifying it and then passing it into our MongoDB. Let's see. Did it work though still? No? Okay. Weird. And then after this, I'm going to start deleting stuff. If this doesn't work, I'll start just pulling stuff out. We'll just get it working again where it just worked with the name. Work. And we'll say low, that's fine. To do, create. Weird. So we're getting validation errors again. Seems to be around that object. And I don't know why. So a little irritating. Let's just not pass in the object then. And we can default the priority. So our model, test status. Oh, these things are required though. Okay. But the test status isn't required. So in theory, we should be able to send off some things to our backend. Let's see, test again, low, boom. Let's go back to why this isn't working. This is so interesting to me, you know. Command Z. It was working at this point. We'll go ahead and pop in name to do, just like this. And we're getting our task status. We didn't even set it in the backend, I didn't think. I thought we just sent in our own or hard-coded our own. So let's just try that. Just get it back to working, you know, and then we'll iron out exactly what the problem is. So a bit of software engineering at times is just debugging, right? Like people, especially with AI, I think is a huge concern with like ChatGPT, and it is really talented. But end of the day, ChatGPT has sent some just bad code too, where it doesn't debug. It's also sent really good code, so it does a bit of both. But right now, I'm still getting confused on task priority being required. We have it here. Task priority is here. Huh. Or does it not like the task payload being like this? So if we just go back to, let's try this. Task ID, we'll say 999, task name, new task, new tax. Task priority, we'll say low. Okay, let's go back to just hard coding our task addition in there and see if that kind of fixed our issue. But we were literally there. We were posting task, and I felt so accomplished. So task. All right, so we're back to working. New task, and let's just pass one thing at a time and see what breaks. Seems like an easy plan, right? So task name. Ryan's task. We'll wait for the server to get back up and running. Low, okay. Seemed like it worked. Ryan's task works great. Let's pass in the ID, see if that breaks it. Good old manual testing. You have to love it. You have to love it. Sorry, folks, let me adjust here. Gosh, what a beautiful day it is outside. I've been going on runs for people watching the vlog. I've got a vlog coming out, and I think it's actually on the second vlog where I'm documenting the runs. Like when I'm running outside, I run this hill by my living domain, and it's kind of an intense hill. Run the hill, put it as a task. Task name, and what do we have? Task ID. Let's see. Yep, seems like it's working. Run the hill, and then let's try. It might be the task priority that's breaking stuff. So we will investigate. We will investigate, folks. Task priority. Let's see. But I do love that we're doing the full stack here as a project because we can debug like this. I've worked with other software engineers in different teams and multiple teams, and sometimes this process can be really burdensome if you don't have like teams really aligned or if like one person's working on one feature, like teams should work on different features at times because your I don't know, probability of overlapping and stuff is like, imagine having to do this, but then also, oh sweet, so the task priority is working. So I do think it has something to do with the task object, and let's try to pop it in. Let's see. But imagine me debugging this and then changing the types and changing the names and then not telling the front end, or vice versa. The front end's like, no, this is how it should be, in the back end's like, no, we hadn't built it anywhere near that. So that's where things like GraphQL and contracts make sense. In my mind, that's where a mono repo and TRPC is just like genius. Okay, let's try. So let's try boom. And that's going to be what breaks it, our task object. Had a hunch, folks, had a hunch. So what if we just pass this in like this? Would that not just, now we don't have to do this? Let's try that. Let's try that. Maybe I could still get away with doing the task type. I would feel really comfortable doing that. It feels sacrilegious to not have some sort of type on the final payload that's sending it off to the DB, right? Say in progress. Okay, we're still getting these errors here. Task status. I'm going to look at our model, and instead of having these be required, I'm going to pull them out. Let's see if that fixes our bug. Name, test status. Okay. Because this is where, oh, did it work? Might have worked, folks. Might have worked. I have no idea what we named it. Did we say test? I forgot. I forgot. This is why sometimes I need like this, so I can immediately see, okay, that's the one. It's not named connect database. I would have easily forgot. Okay, so let's see. Medium, boom. Let's see if it worked. No, it's not looking like it's working. So, but it's also not throwing an error, so that's not good. Because it should at least let us know that, hey, this Axios request was bad. Axios request. Say in progress. How about that? Oh, there it goes. I saw something move. It moved, but it didn't query the task, it looks like. So that's weird. It's having issues here, and I think we need to push to this, right? But I'm like not the best on the back end, right? Where I don't know if we need to push to an array like this, or do you just pass it in as an array, right? Like, do we need to make the task object where I say const task object, and I say these things hopefully humbly, where task object task status array. How about this? Let task status array equal this. And then we'll say test status array dot push task object, right? We'll see, folks. We'll see. Sounds right. And we just need that task type. But I say these things humbly where, again, learning from a guy like Chester, that dude is so smart on the back end. So it's one of those things where I used to think, okay, I'm like a full stack developer. I could do a ton of stuff over here. But then when I'm around that guy, I'm just a fly on the wall when it comes to back end concepts and things that I didn't know about these compound keys that he was teaching me yesterday. And it's just every now and then there's these new foreign concepts that I've never heard of, never thought about. And he's like, oh yeah, dude, it's nothing. I'm like, what do you mean? You just explained this huge architecture. And he's like, oh yeah, it's nothing. So I'm just a fly on the wall. You know what I mean? Okay, so task type number. Seems like maybe ChatGPT would quickly know the syntax for this. Let's maybe ask ChatGPT, and I'm going to pop this in here. Say, I am trying to post a task to my MongoDB. Here is my function. I'll give them actually the whole function. And here is my model. Boom. Let's see. Oh, and then I need to point him in the right direction a little bit. Say, and I having problems specifically around pushing a new task status object to an array, right? Okay, let's see. Let's see what good old chat says. Golly, who thought being a software engineer would be so fun, right? Sometimes it's fun, and I really do enjoy it. Like last night, I was trying to figure out the speech recognition thing with ChatGPT, where you connect an API to chat, and then in Python you write a script that connects to your microphone, and then it does talk to text basically, and then post that to ChatGPT, and then you have ChatGPT talk back to you. I couldn't fully figure it out, but it was a really, really, really interesting thing, right? You've defined a timestamp as a field, as a number, and okay, so it's saying that could be an issue. It's not a number here, it's a date. Okay, unused task payload object. I'm aware of that. We are not using that. And type definitions. You mentioned task type as an object, but there's no information about what this type contains. Make sure it matches the schema you're using. Let me give it that. So I'll give it the task type. Here is my type. And then I'll give it the model. Here's my schema. And mismatched field schema. So in the function you're setting task name, it says in provided function you're setting task ID, task name, task priority, task status. However, in the schema there are additional fields like task category and task assignee. These fields are not optional. It may throw a validation error. Okay, so let's see what it updates to. TypeScript timestamp is a number. Okay, thought so. We have this. Yep, we just updated that model here to this. Oh, sorry. Type date, type string. Yep, we just updated that. Just double checking. Boom, task status, column name, and timestamp. Yep, date. Sorry, just double check. Not sure why it gave us 2. And is that it? It's just new date instead of date.now. Is that literally why? Was that our bug the whole time? If it is, that's absurd. That's absurd to me. That is absolutely absurd. Time schema. Okay, task status schema. Let's go back to this. Okay. All right, folks. Let's see if it was the new date issue. And I'll go ahead and add task dates. Task priority is still required. Okay. Our model. Let's see. Task store. Let's go to our model. Get rid of category. Let's make this not required again. Task priority. Let's see. Because maybe it's one of those things that I still have to pass in even blank things for the assignee or something. Okay. Let's see if that worked. But why did it work and then stop working? That's what I want to know. Because we were, I remember I thought we were assigning task to the right columns into the right places, and I forget. I wish I didn't touch it. You know what I mean? But same time, we should be able to build it again if we've done that, right? Like that seems really task status name. Oh. Golly, folks. Golly. Oh my goodness. So this whole time, maybe it was because we adjusted that and we were adjusting things on the back end. Golly. Let's see. Saw a move and let's see. Nope, still no love. Still no love. Task status name, task status. Okay, we're gonna make it the object again, and then task status name. Let's see, const task status obj, and we'll pass that into the array here. Wait for our server to fire back up. Folks, I don't want to conclude the episode until we fix this. You know what I mean? So it's just debugging. Oh, I saw something. You speak and it happens. That's how it's done, folks. That's how it's done. Now we have, it seems to be our CRUD operations all functioning here, at least the import ones. If we can create a new task, we can delete task. Obviously, the next one will be updating and kind of configuring some of these, modals and drop downs and fields. This was just so we can start building tasks, right? And not have to pop them in there with our hand, because that was just not it. That was not very fun. So let's clean these up a bit. I'm going to start deleting task. Oop. Ryan's task. Let's delete that. Add loaders. We did add loaders, so I'm going to kind of hand update it by saying add loaders, and it was a low thing, but it's done. So let's pop over here, see if we can see this thing working. Add loaders, done. Not sure why it didn't give us a priority. I do want to default that. So if there is no task priority, we'll just default it to medium. Oh, and final thing or one of the final things, I do want it to still follow this structure of as task type. Of course, we're going to get an error. Ensure to Y, task ID, task priority, task status, boom, boom, boom. Task type might be a mistake. Folks, I really want this to be typed. It just feels bad to not have it be typed, and we're sending it off to the database. Like, that just seems bad, you know? So why is it throwing us an error here? Task status, task. Okay. All right. We won't do that then, but that just seems foul. That just seems like we should not be doing that. But let's see. So if I delete this loaders, and if we don't put in a, oh, well, let's wait for our database. Okay, sweet. So it did do that. If we don't put in a task type, so we'll say add loaders. Let's pop it over to done. Nice. Pops on in there. Medium task. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. So I do want to do this. And the ... I want to somewhat configure as well, but I think for today that was a little bit heavy on the debugging, but we did link up some really important things of linking the front end to the back end and getting some loaders, and boom. Let me delete the loader here. We got our task functions that we can do. The next thing I think we want to do is kind of like updating task, and as well build a function where we can click an arrow here and it pops us over to the next column, or we can pop it back to the previous column, right? I think that'll at least be kind of the start for us doing the drag thing, like being able to drag a div. I don't know how difficult or easy that's going to be, but overall, getting those CRUD operations implemented, I think, is at least the key ones of creating and deleting is just perfect right now. So I'm pumped. You guys got to see some of the update of the application. Obviously, there's some spacing issues up top that I just need to briefly figure out in the CSS file. Not a huge deal. That was a larger thing to figure out today, was those CRUD operations. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Today was a successful episode. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next. Cheers.